This is Viburnum davidii, and I've been out today and come across this in a garden centre. And I don't often visit garden centres because I much prefer nurseries or specialist nurseries, or I get a lot of my plants online. But with the exception of shrubs and trees, I tend to have to go to garden centres because it's a lot cheaper and a lot easier to buy them there. Now, it's a horrible day today, so as I said, I've been to a garden centre and I came across these two, and it's Viburnum davidii, and it's one of my favourite types of viburnum. All viburnums I like anyway, but when I see some that become very cheap, I tend to get them. I don't go for the dead and dying section because I really don't trust those, because I've had it before where I bought dead and dying and they're in there for a reason, and that's usually because they passed it. So I'll just leave them alone now. Experience has taught me to leave them well alone. Now then, so I'm out here at the minute near the shack to show you these, and I just thought I'd go through this particular shrub itself, just Viburnum davidii. Now, it's absolutely fantastic, and I've got, this now makes me five of these plants in the garden, or there will be once these two go in. I'll show you three others, and then the one that's singly put in. Now these are three Viburnum davidii, and I've got these, believe it or not, under this holly tree. So that holly tree was already here. But as I like these plants so much, I bought three of them at the time. In fact, I bought four of them at the time in little 1 litre pots, and I brought them onto this side. So they're about 1.5 to 2 foot wide at the minute. Well, I say 1.5 foot at the moment. And they're looking really good. And they do go well under trees. They go well under dry shade, or dry semi-shade would probably suit them better. But they're absolutely stunning. Now, they look good mass planted, but they also look good singly, as this one here. And this one here showing a nice flower, as you can see, and that leaf is just fantastic. It's a fantastic evergreen type shrub that's very small, doesn't get bigger than about 1.5 foot to 2 foot wide and high. And that's the fourth one of the four that I got and grew in 1 litre pots. So I thought I'd just go through them with you, because I've found these other two at £7 each. I was amazed that they only cost me £7 each. But I thought I'd go through it and explain to you a little bit more about Viburnum davidii. Now, Viburnum davidii, for those that are interested, comes from Western China. And a lot of our plants come from China, and some superb plants have come from China itself. So you'll be surprised how many Chinese plants you have in your garden without realising it. So I'll go through it. So the low maintenance, these plants, they're evergreen, as you can see. They make excellent ground cover, as I've just shown a minute ago. They're very pest-free, really, with the exception of they do suffer a few leaf diseases and diseases within the tree itself, or the shrub itself. But don't worry too much about that, because mainly they're really good and it doesn't often affect them, only if you're unlucky. Now, the one thing that I will say is we get something called the Viburnum beetle, which did attack mine when I first got here. The three over the back there, they were suffering drastically with it, but I soon managed to get them back on track by spraying in the spring, and that's the best time to spray for Viburnum beetle. But you must spray it continuously for about a couple of months. Anyway, so propagation. Well, they grow these flowers. I just showed you the flower on the other plant. And what happens is in spring that flower appears. Now, it's a weird year this year, and everything's flowering and seeding at the wrong time, as was that one over there. Beautiful flower, little white flower. I think there is a little bit of a scent to it, but you've got to get your nose right down to smell that. But what happens is that comes out in spring generally. Then from summer onwards, you get this type of look. So you get these little blue-black berries. Now, this isn't a great example. Maybe we'll have a look at the other ones in a minute, see if we can see a better example. But they get this metallic blue-black sheen on them. Now, that's looking, through this camera, purple at the moment. But that will develop into a lovely blue-black sheen, metallic, and it'll look fantastic. Now, it's what they call a dioecious plant, and that basically it basically means they're either male or the female, and it's hard to tell which. You've got to have a male or a female, and both plants have organs on separate flowers and on separate plants. So basically, it'll either be a male or it'll be a female, and you'll either have male parts on that plant or female parts on that plant. Hard to tell. Some will flower, some won't flower. So you've literally just got to buy a load just to make sure that you're okay. But generally, if you can buy 2 or 3 together, then they'll pretty much berry every year. You should be okay for that. So as I've said, they look good in groups, but they also look good planted singly, and they're fantastic for that. What else can I say? So they'll take sun or part shade. It won't really matter too much to them. They will take a bit of dark shade, but not in full dark shade. And as I showed you earlier, with these 3, they will sit under a tree, and they'll happily sit under trees once they're established. Now, to get these established, I did get them watered on a regular basis, and then this is how they've rewarded me. These particular 3 have stayed quite squat compared to the 3 I've just bought, and the leaves are a little bit smaller, but it doesn't matter. There's one here starting to flower again, and as I said, they're flowering at a weird time of the year. They don't usually flower at this time of the year. It's usually in spring, although I have known them flower in sort of warm winters, which is what we're getting now. So they do that. In fact, while we're here, I know I said I was just going to talk about that one, but here's another Viburnum here, and this one's called Bodnum Tense, and it is a really, really good Viburnum, and it's flowering. And our Viburnum Bodnum Tense starts in sort of October, and it'll go right through into spring, really, early spring, before it drops its flowers. And it has... oh, God, it's a lovely scent. It really does have a lovely scent. But that's just sidestepping that. So that's what happens. So it's flowering at a weird time, really, although not unheard of. Don't forget, we're in the UK, and it's been an exceptionally good year. So the item spread, wouldn't expect them to get more than 1 to 1.5 metres, so less than 3. They make a lovely domed plant. And if you've got the area for them, it's great. Now, they do take most soils. Don't really matter what it is. I'm on heavy chalk here, and they'll take clay. They'll take everything, basically. And once they're established, they'll be beautiful and pretty much easy to maintain. The only thing you may have to do, if the shape sort of goes out of kilter, if a branch gets damaged and snapped, you may have to do a little bit of freehand clipping, get the shape back. But generally, they'll make a domed small shrub, which is absolutely fantastic. They're very hardy, especially for me. I've never really known these to suffer at all in any weather, especially in hard winters. They don't seem to care. And as I said, they have these lovely veined leaves, and they are really nice. They're a lovely little plant, and well worth searching out. And as I said, I got these for £7 each. I was amazed to find them at that price, because the 3 little ones I bought way back probably cost me about £7 for the 3, admittedly, but there's practically 1 little branch on each. So to find something this size for that price, I was amazed. Absolutely fantastic. So that's Viburnum davidii. Some people call it davidii, I call it davidii. And that's what it is. And it's a good maintenance-free shrub that you ought to really consider putting in your garden. Like I say, I've now got 5. They look good in pots, they look good in mixed borders. Bear in mind that they only get to about 1.5 to 2, maybe 3 foot to push. Bear that in mind when you're replacing them, because you could end up losing them through summer if they're in a big border. That's the only thing you really need to consider. And the other thing is the viburnum beetle. If you do suffer that, you'll get little tiny holes all over the place, chopping away. It'll look terrible, and you'll find this little sluggy little type of creature on it. And you've got to reach for the chemicals, I'm afraid, because it will decimate your plant eventually. So there you go. And pruning, don't bother. Don't really bother pruning. Leave it alone. If it needs pruning, just take out the dead and dying and the infected branches, and that's all it will need. So there you go. Consider that one. Viburnum davidii. Thanks for looking. Ta-da.